Thank you, Julie. I felt like you did that just for me. I know that's super narcissistic, but I was like, oh, how nice. I feel better. I'm very, very excited to be here today. And over the next 20 minutes, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence and leadership lessons from the lab. So it makes sense for us to first start by putting a little definition around the lab. And Rand did that for you. I'm going to just give you a little more detail. Momentous Institute, our name is about expecting momentous outcomes for all children, regardless of their circumstances. And we extend that belief of momentous outcomes for Dallas as well, a belief that Dallas can be as good a place for children as it is for business, and until it is, we're never going to be as good at business as we could be. Momentous Institute has been studying children and their well-being for 97 years, and we do that in these three ways: through Momentous School, through therapeutic services, and through research and training. So we work with over 5,000 people a year directly, children and families, either in our mental health work or in our lab school. We learn everything we possibly can from those amazing families, and then we invest in research and training so that we can help far more children than we could ever serve directly. This work would not be possible if it weren't for the business community. We're owned by the Salesmanship Club of Dallas, which is a group of about 650 business leaders that have our back in every way. And our chief fundraising event is the AT&T Byron Nelson, which is coming up in just a couple of weeks. This last year, we worked with over 9,000 educators, mental health professionals, and influencers from 85 cities, 16 states, and 8 other countries in some sort of social emotional health training. We can estimate conservatively that those 9,000 people will work with over 200,000 children in 1 year's time. We're looking for population level change, and we knew that we would never get there working just one family at a time. I'm so preaching to the choir, though. I'm so aware of that, especially after the amazing day we had yesterday. Emotional intelligence permeates every aspect of conscious capitalism. But what I want to focus on today is how much we can learn from children about relaxing into a natural leadership style that is grounded in emotional intelligence, in presence, and in curiosity. Suzuki Roshi says that in the expert's mind, possibilities are few. In the expert's mind, possibilities are few. But in the beginner's mind, possibilities are endless. It's sometimes referred to as the prison of expertise. The more we know, the more at risk we are of losing touch with that natural capacity to be grounded in emotional intelligence. So here are the 3 lessons that I bring to you from my youngest friends. The first is settle your glitter. The second, what you pay attention to expands. And the third, make room for joy and play. So before I even tell you what settle your glitter means, although I could tell from your giggles, you kind of get it, we're going to do an exercise. This is an easy one, way easier than Sean's exercises. I'm going to keep track of time for 1 minute. And all you have to do is count your breaths. And inhale, exhale would be 1 breath. So that's making you all really anxious. There's a lot of coughing. Are you okay? Okay. Okay, go. Okay, let's hear some numbers. 5, 8, 10, 12, 3. We've got are you levitating? Who are you over there? Okay, so remember your number because it's going to come up in a little while. And I will tell you a little bit more about what I mean about settle your glitter. In our attempt to use social emotional health and emotional intelligence as a lever for children to achieve their full potential, we heard Chad talk about that last night. Not just kind of sort of make it, but achieve their full potential. We knew two things. We knew that we wanted our work to be grounded in neuroscience, and we knew that we had to figure out ways to explain the work in so simple terms that it would even make sense to 3-year-olds. We wanted to teach very young children about their brains and about the biology of their emotions. So we teach our 3-year-olds that their amygdala is in charge of their emotions, that their prefrontal cortex helps them make good decisions, and that their hippocampus helps them remember. And we tell them that the glitter ball is like a model of their brain, and that when the amygdala is in charge, their brain looks like this. And they're like, "It looks crazy in there, miss." Exactly. You're having an amygdala hijack, and the glitter is everywhere. So the first thing is we teach them to notice when that's happening. And then the second thing we teach them is to take responsibility for settling your glitter so that it becomes clear. They can see clearly at whatever's happening and make a good decision. But you can't just tell kids that, right? And you actually can't just tell adults that either. You have, it might be worse. You have to introduce some strategies and then practice, and not when the amygdala is already in hijack mode, right? You got to practice those strategies when the prefrontal cortex is online. So what is the most accessible, most researched way to regulate our nervous system or settle our glitter? Breathing, exactly. I talked to one group and they were like, drugs. So I had to add in, I was like, free? I had to add in free. They were a really sketchy group. Just kidding. You're right, it's breathing. So we teach children breathing techniques, and at least 3 times a day, class will stop and the kids will do some breathing exercises so that becomes such a natural strategy that when their amygdala is in charge, they can naturally bring that strategy in, settle their glitter, and get back to what they're learning. Slower, deeper breathing has enormous benefits for us. The list is long. Again, I know I'm preaching to the choir. I won't bore you with the research. But just in your own felt experience, how many people have a regular breathing exercise? Awesome. Okay, fantastic. If you're interested and want to try something, a great place to start would be Headspace. And plus, they kind of hook you with the streaks. And so even when you don't care at all about breathing or humanity or anything, you don't want to break your streak. So I highly recommend that. Another great place to start is a relatively new course that's online that Steve Hall actually turned me on to. It's a 12-week meditation course done by Don DePani. Those would be 2 great places to start if you want to bring this breathing practice into your work and your life. So hold on, I got ahead of myself. All right, you want to try one more thing? Okay, so first of all, who needs this? Because I need to get rid of it. Who needs it today? Okay, come get it. Can you tell us why you need it? I'm just kidding. Okay, so we're going to do another breathing exercise, and this one is called box breathing or foursquare breathing. It was developed by a Navy SEAL. It's used by the Special Forces, by surgeons, by professional sports teams, and basically it just helps you elongate one breath into 16 seconds. So what they have you do is you'll breathe in for 4 seconds, and you want to do a decent inhale so that you make it through the next step, which is to hold for 4 seconds. Then you're going to exhale 4 and then you're going to hold 4 and then repeat. So we're going to do this for another minute, just as we did the other. So for the math geniuses in the room, how many breaths will we get? Yes, 4, exactly. So compare that to the number that you had. Some of you were already there, levitating and all, but some of you were in the 12s, 10s. So pay attention to how it feels for your body to settle into that deeper, slower breathing. Ready? How did that feel? Did you notice the shift in the room? That's because what happens inside us affects what happens between us. And so, we always talk to our team about if you're in a situation where you are not sure what your next move should be, you don't know how to comfort a child or how to redirect a child, the very most important thing you can do is regulate your own nervous system because of that contagion. We heard about yesterday a little bit about that as well. I'm going to finish out this first lesson with a 1-minute video. This is one of our students named Faith. When we shot this video, she was 4 years old, so she had a year and a half of practicing this breathing. So when you watch her, pay attention to 3 things. Pay attention to the fact that she notes when she's triggered, when she's having that amygdala hijack and her glitter's everywhere, that she has a strategy that she can pull in and try. And then, more importantly, note how that impacts her ability to engage with the next challenge in front of her, okay?
When we're mad or sad or scared or frustrated, take a deep breath. We gotta breathe and center. We take deep breaths slowly out. Like this. After I breathe, I feel happy. I tell Miss Garcia when her feels mad or frustrated, I tell her to breathe. I was trying to match some letters and I got really frustrated. And I need to take a deep breath. And I almost got it. I almost got it by myself, and I felt just a little happy.
She's part party trick, part neuroscience. So truly, leaders who can consistently settle their glitter, though, are almost like world-class athletes. Like, it impacts every single challenge in front of us and how we relate to it, every frustration and every opportunity. So let's dive in to the next lesson from our littlest friends, which is what you pay attention to expands. We learned this lesson after doing therapy with family after family after family who had experienced tremendous trauma. And not only were the families struggling to get footing with more traditional ways of working, but our therapists were getting burned out and depressed as well. And so we took a page out of quantum physics, where they've proven that even at a molecular level, what you pay attention to expands. And we started to pay a lot more attention to strengths and to exceptions. It does not mean we ignored the problems. We just got rabidly curious about what was working and how to get more of that. So that could mean you're sitting in the room with a family that is literally screaming at each other Sunday to Sunday. But Wednesday, from 6:05 to 6:08, something shifted, and they were kind to each other. So our questions, our curiosity would zero in on those 3 minutes and how to get more of that. It's the same with the teams, right? You may have a team that is sort of stuck in the if-only mode, right? And they've defined themselves by this narrative that if they only had more resources, what a difference they could make. Have you ever seen that? I know nobody's ever seen that, right? So it's so easy to try to talk them into that they have enough, right? To keep our focus on shifting their narrative or shifting their mind. But if instead we can put our attention on what we want more of, even if it just shows up for a flash, and ask curious questions around that, then that in fact is what will expand. It opens up whole new doors. This visual comes from Don DePani that I was referring to earlier. I don't know if you need visuals to shift behavior, but I do. And what he talks about is this little ball of light acting almost as like an illustration of our attention or our awareness. And so he challenges us to note where the little ball of light tends to go, maybe on problems, maybe on frustrations, and actively move the ball of light to something that serves us. Maybe it's gratitude, maybe it's optimism, maybe it's appreciation for the way a team shows up in the face of the problem that has you hooked. Leaders who understand that what they pay attention to expands rarely feel stuck. And they build teams that are truly engaged because they feel seen for what's working and for what they do well. And counterintuitively, that creates an energy that has your team chipping away at what isn't working because they feel seen for what they bring to the table. Lesson number 3, you all with me? What was lesson number 1? Settle your glitter, awesome. Lesson number 2? Fabulous. And lesson number 3, make room for joy and play. So we heard a lot about this yesterday, right? A really good case for making room for joy and play. But honestly, it can be challenging to bring that into your organization even when you know you should. And so what I want to spend our time talking about instead is what gets in the way of us doing that. Albert Einstein even sees the value of play as the highest form of research. Here's how I want to illustrate what gets in the way. This is a sort of a creepy photo, so forgive me for that. But there's a research study that gives us a great metaphor. Mice apparently are very playful creatures, and the researchers were following them for 4 days, and they would track in 5-minute increments how many times the mice initiated play. And guess how many times they initiated play in 1 minute? In the 5-minute period. 50 times. 50 times in that 1 minute period. But on the 5th day, the researchers inserted one single cat hair, and what do you think happened to the play? It completely ceased. Okay, the cat hair caused the mice to completely cease playing. So from 50 times in a 5-minute period, 0 times the whole day. At the end of the day, they pulled the cat hair out, and they kept studying the mice. And what do you think happened over the next 3 days? Still no more play. Play did not come back. After 3 days, it started to come back, but it never came back to the full pre-cat hair play. So my question to you when we talk about bringing in more joy and more play into our organizations is, what is your cat hair? What is the thing that you're giving outsized power to? And what is the thing that you are allowing to steal the joy and play from your organization, maybe even days, months, or years after the threat has passed. It's not just about us, it's about mood contagion. Again, that came up yesterday, but every single one of us can pick that person in our organization who walks into the room, whose glitter is settled, who pays attention to the right things, who's not bossed around by their cat hair. And what do? They bring the whole room up. And conversely, we can all pick the person in our organization that walks in the room, that's the energy vampire, that's the fun sponge, sucks the oxygen out of the room. You know who I'm talking about. I know you know. I bet that one came to your mind faster. Traditional leadership models tell us that we walk into a room, we take the temperature, and then we respond or react. Emotionally intelligent leadership says we're the thermometers, thermostats. Last time I talked about this, I called it a thermostat. So I'm moving up. Thermostats. We're the thermostats. We're the chief tone setters. And we can practice this every day because whether we accept the responsibility or not, every room we walk into, we're impacting and we're affecting. But if we choose to accept the responsibility, to walk into the room and impact the climate, and do so by settling our glitter, by knowing that what we pay attention to expands, and by making room for joy and play, we will be carrying out the vision of conscious capitalism, and we will be improving humanity. I'm going to finish with this quote, Marianne Williamson. She says, "We are all meant to shine as children do. As we let our own light shine, we give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our fear, our presence automatically liberates others." Thank you so much.